Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kick. Welcome to Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. I like to keep the show to about 90 minutes. Kippo-licious. Be sure you get that schmedium every Tuesday night. Full tilt boogie. Kippo-licious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium. Twisted Tea. Hippopotamus. Cold beverage. Schmedium. Midler. Out in BFE. Out in BFE. At the end of the day. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday. Full tilt boogie.
It's been a long road since the original kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is kicker.
We're here at the Denso NHRA 4Y Nationals here in Las Vegas. Man, we have got two-time funny car, top fuel champion, Cruz Pedregon here, icon of the sport. Dude, we just so appreciate you taking the time. But I got to ask you, so we know in 1986, you were driving go-karts, and a year later, you're in a dragster. What made that change of going from wanting to do, track racing to running down straight track racing?
I started out with something I could afford, so there was a little dirt track, or a few dirt track races in Southern California that I started racing. Like I said, I could afford it. They're still expensive, but I always had my eye on drag racing. So I caught the eye of an owner that had a low budget team, started out very humble beginnings. I basically worked for food. I worked to race for nothing. So, but I started out, you couldn't have started out further down the ladder than I did, but I'm glad I did, because I was able to parlay that into driving for a bigger team through the years, won a championship, and here we are. I own my own team. I've been in business for like 15 years now, or 20 years on my own with Snap-on and Kicker and all the great sponsors, so very exciting time.
Cruz, we know you're super passionate about what you do. We're curious, what drives you, what refuels you off the track when you're at home?
Well, I have a daughter now, so it's I just love my daughter. She's going on 8 years old, so priorities change a little bit, but I've always had this passion for racing, so much so that that's all I would do morning, noon, and night. I would think about it when I got up. I go to bed at night. Racing was my entire life, and it still is, but I share a little bit of that during the off time with my daughter Raya and my girlfriend Melissa. So, it's one of those things where the desire to perform at this level and to do it, I feel like I have my best years ahead of me. I have so much more experience than I did when I started out that I want to put that to good use. So here we are.
That's awesome. Well, man, I tell you, Kicker is super proud to be associated with you. We're blessed to be part of the team and helping out. And hey, now that we've got this killer PA system back here jamming the pits, what's that mean for you and your team and your guests and everybody in your organization?
Well, having a brand like Kicker, number one, is an honor for us, really. I know it's a brand that goes way back. Heck, we've all heard of them. So for them to be, you guys support us like you do is really an honor for us. But we want to do our part on the racetrack and put your guys' name out there. But as far as what you guys just created for us was really cool. I didn't have any idea the quality of sound with all the noise, all the race cars starting, all the voices and all the generators running, that we could still hear loud and clear the PA system. So thanks to Kicker, great product, and we have a lot of Snap-on guests that are invited to come out here as part of the customer service to say thank you to the Snap-on customers for buying the tools. So it's a great opportunity for us to speak to them but not have to yell. So they appreciate it. Like I say, the brand speaks for itself. It's quality. So we're tickled to have them.
Well, thank you so much, man. Look, after 32 some years of blasting down the track, pulling 4 Gs, what keeps you pushing to do this, man?
It's amazing because you never get used to these cars. Like, my eyes still burn like everybody else. They're still loud, but they accelerate. Every run is like a new run. You never know what they're going to do, but I feel like I have a little bit less stress because I kind of know what the car is supposed to do and what it feels like to make a good run. So, like I said, as a driver, yeah, I've got a few miles on me, but I think in this sport, you can still be a little older and still be able to perform at a high level. So that's what I look at as I don't feel like I'm a deficient guy in this driver's seat. If anything, I hope I can bring something to it. But the day's going to come, hey, I'm an owner and I have a fast car. The day's going to come where, hey, I'm going to want to look at a younger driver and somebody, to replace me so I can maintain ownership and maybe tune that guy into a championship or gal, whoever. So, but it's a business. I look at it as a business. It has to make sense down the road, but I'm not looking, I say another 4 or 5 years in this seat, I'm good.
Hey, I know you're running tight on time. You got a last qualifying run. Again, we're blessed to be with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We love you, brother.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
See you.
frequencies detected emanating from the heavens. Saucer-shaped objects confirmed all over the world. Unidentified flying K saucers spotted delivering Kicker's amazing new CompQ Subwoofer. Built for precision, built for abuse, built for the future and benefit of mankind. Kicker's new CompQ woofer leaves audiences astounded and amazed as it reveals subtleties in their favorite music in a way that is sure to make women blush and grown men cry. The surround features Kicker's variable cross-section high-roll design, allowing extended cone travel and excellent cone control. It's firmly attached to the cone, reinforced with our iconic stitching. Betsy Ross would be so proud. The injection molded solo cone and laser X cone brace combined in a single ultra-rigid unit. Venting in the brace relieves performance-robbing back pressure. All this adds up to very low distortion and amazingly clean low bass. The progressive roll blue lace spider adds even more cone control at maximum excursion. The woven tinsel leads are sandwiched between the spider and the lace for durability and long life and to prosper. The spring terminal's heavy-duty square design accepts wires as big as 8-gauge or two 12-gauge wires for multi-sub installations. The high-temp voice coil is rumored to be spun upon the looms of the gods of polyamide fiberglass, along with a reinforced former for high strength and power handling. Now, add colossal magnets, plus a cavernous bump back plate, an extended pole piece created in a single forging, the likes that haven't been seen since the creation of Poseidon's trident. And the result is a driver with superior control and effective heat dissipation that extreme performance demands. The all-new Kicker CompQ is designed from the ground up to deliver everything you demand from a premium subwoofer. High output, deep, powerful, accurate bass, remarkably small enclosure requirements, stunning good looks, and not to mention the ability to frighten small children when turned up to 11. So there you have it. The all-new Kicker CompQ subwoofer. Another zenith of innovation and epic majesty from Kicker.
I built my first speaker to be louder. I was playing in a band and the drummer played so loud and the keyboard that I had wouldn't play very loud, and I went to my dad and said, I need a bigger speaker. It's a Fender Bandmaster, it costs $300. He dropped the newspaper. It said, $300? Yeah, but he didn't say no. He said, is it something that we could build? And so that's how I got started building speakers. The thing that I love to see is a product that we made and get to stand back kind of anonymously and watch somebody take a look at it, listen to it, and go, wow. I think that's what really lights my fires, to make products that people enjoy and have fun with. As time went on, I heard people say, you know, Kicker's like a family. I actually didn't set out to do that. I thought it sounded kind of hokey. I thought they were insincere and just saying that. After a few years, I realized, yeah, maybe that's what we've got. And that's the key, is the good people on your team in the band that makes the band really great. Well, I think Kicker is primarily a lifestyle company. That's a little backwards of where I started. I thought we were a technology company and we would make great products, but as time went on, realized that it's about people and helping people to enjoy their life and what they do. And that's what I do, too. So share the love a little bit, I guess.
Good evening, everyone. You know what time it is? It is Tuesday, 7:30 Central Time, and you are on the Kicker Facebook or YouTube channel. So it is time for Kicker Unmasked Live, and I am not Kip Litzy. Sorry, guys. I know you all tuned in to see Kip Litzy.
You look like it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're stuck with these two knuckleheads here. I'm Ken Bundy. This is my comrade,
John Myers.
John Myers. So,
what do you think? Should we let Kip come do one of these again someday?
yeah, we want him back just as much as you guys do. Obviously, we miss him.
We've been having fun.
Yeah, that's right. We miss his antics. We miss his personality. We miss him being around here. So, Kip, if you're watching, hope you get well soon. But we're going to try and hold it down for you in the meantime. So, housekeeping stuff, right? For those that don't know how this show works,
pick up your dirty clothes.
That is some housekeeping.
Not that kind of housekeeping.
But this type of housekeeping on this show, we're talking every 7:30 Central Time, every Tuesday, 7:30 Central Time, Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in, Kicker Unmasked Live. We like to talk about this, that, and everything, really. We just get together and, like I said, a couple
we're
of
always taking ideas.
Yeah,
you guys got ideas, send them to us.
For sure. If you guys got an idea of something you guys want to talk about, then
and we promise if we don't know what we're talking about, we'll make it up and you'll never know.
Hey, that's what I'm doing tonight, right?
Exactly, both of us.
Dinner tonight. We had some delicious Chipotle.
Always.
Chipotle, right? Quick, easy, effective. Who doesn't love it, right?
Filling,
yeah, for sure.
I'm going to take a nap before this is over.
Thank you very much, Steve and Becky Irby, giving us the opportunity to not only pay for dinner
JW
for us.
for going to get it.
Yeah, JW went and got it for us, but they've been. Steve and Becky are obviously allowing us to do this every Tuesday night with you guys, so thank you guys very much. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, I do appreciate that from them. So don't forget the introductions, right? We got Tim running the cameras in the back. We have Ernie.
I point at him like they can see me.
That's right, yeah. He's running the
guy
camera.
back there behind the camera.
Ernie, JW, and Bill Frog are in the way back. There they are.
Bill's in the house.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
There they are. Hey, Bill. JW,
so they'll be answering your questions. If you guys have questions, comments, go ahead and put them in that the little chat feed.
Is that a fisheye lens they were using back there?
They got something special.
It didn't look as
Ernie
good as
knows
ours.
what he's doing. Ernie knows what he's doing back there.
I think that was somebody's cell phone.
And then if it's a cool question or it's something that they feel that we can address live on the air,
or if it's not a cool question, we want to pick on somebody.
If you just want to pick on somebody, they'll highlight it, and hopefully I'll be looking at the screen and we'll answer it. What else? Housekeeping. Obviously, we had a weekly draw-in. You guys know every Tuesday we do a
gave away
draw-in.
some good stuff last week.
For sure, and this week is no
Who else
different.
gives away stuff every week? What
Every
other
single week.
manufacturer?
Well, I'm not going to call anybody out, but we do a decent job at that. So
we do. Yeah,
that's right.
That's who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So this week is no different, guys. We do a weekly drawing. Please go over to kicker.com/UM Weekly. UM, like unmasked. UM Weekly, all one word. And if you guys can show my laptop real quick.
That one.
I hope it's showing because my display. Oh, it does show. There we go.
Nice.
So if you go to UM Weekly, you can see the address bar up there at the top. Kicker.com/UM Weekly. And this is the page you'll get to. Of course, I need a refresh, it looks like, because it's not open. But there, now it's open. Now it is open.
17,600 total entries.
And that sounds like a lot, but I'll walk you through that. So if you scroll down to see our prizes for tonight, third place is going to get a pair of EB200. It's our Bluetooth in-ear earbuds, wireless earbuds.
Still like those.
Yeah, still great pieces. You're also going to get a Kicker koozie along with the limited edition Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt. Second place. What else?
Oh, second place.
You said and. You're going to give out something else.
No, not yet.
All right.
I was going to say and they can't see you pointing back there because they're watching the screen.
Oh, okay. So second place is going to get a pair of Tabor 2 headphones. That's actual over-the-ear headphones, the koozie and the t-shirt. And grand prize is going to get a pair of the Cush NC over-ear headphones. Those actually have active noise canceling in them. And they are the bee's knees. I use them all personally.
Hey.
And the ANCs are no joke.
25 hertz to life. He's got it figured out. It's Rigged Tuesdays.
It's Rigged Tuesdays.
Just for you.
If you guys sign up for our newsletter, go ahead and put your information down in there. We don't spam you. It's really just for our stuff. You'll get, look at that. That was just 100 entries if you sign up for it. And that's why the number looks so big at the top. And then once you've signed up for the newsletter, you can go ahead and probably kill my laptop. Thank you. Once you guys sign up for the newsletter, you can then share it on Twitter, you can share it on Facebook, and that will get you extra entries. So you could end up with over 1,000 entries into tonight's drawing. So a very cool thing. But
that's awesome.
I don't want to leave out events, right? So what's upcoming Kicker events? Whoa, let me scroll up. We're going to go to...
That looks like you in that picture.
That's not me at all. So the Kicker Facebook page, guys. If you go to Facebook, type in Kicker in the search bar. If you're not already following Kicker, you'll get to this page here. What you need to do is look at this more arrow. Actually, click on that more arrow. and then go to events and click on events, and it'll actually pull up some of our events, bring you down to here, upcoming events. Well, look at there, Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time.
We're up.
That's where you are right now.
Still saying that's your picture.
Oh, it is me. It is have me in there. It got cut. You got chopped off, man.
That's probably a good thing for everybody out there.
Yeah. But then coming up this weekend, we have an arena cross event in
Those are
Guthrie,
fun.
Oklahoma.
Those arena cross events are awesome. If you've never been to one, they are just a blast. Nice way to get out of the house and listen to some really loud things other than stereo.
For sure. They are a lot of fun. They absolutely
Breathe some
are.
gas fumes and some dirt in the air. And
Those of you guys that are close enough to Guthrie, make sure you turn out for this one. It'll be special.
if you're not, check the schedule. There's probably one near you.
Yeah. I went maybe 2 years ago, and I had a great time. Really did.
They're a lot of fun.
But I think this is a great time, since we're talking about arena cross, is to bring in a special guest for tonight.
Special.
Mr. Lauren Morrell.
Hey guys, thank you. Thanks for having me.
The
Lauren.
events guy.
Lauren, for some of you guys that have been watching the stream for a while, you probably recognize him. We've had him on here a time or two. But Lauren, why don't you tell us what you do for Kicker, and then
Hey,
what are you here for?
I do off-road events, motorsports events, power sports events, some marine events now, which
So
is
arena cross,
a lot of fun. Arena cross,
Monster trucks,
monster truck,
boat shows, marine shows.
Kicker Monster Truck Nationals. Get it right there. We do the Enduro Cross Series, American Flat Track. I've done some boat shows. I was fortunate enough to do the Ibex show with Scott Martin this year. That was a blast. He's a great guy, and that boat of his is just decked
crazy
out. It's
Yeah, I've seen
insane.
pictures anyway.
Well-
it plays well.
You keep saying you do these. What do you do at these events? What exactly is your role? Tell us what you do with our money.
Why do we pay you?
Exactly.
Basically, I get to the event, set things up, set a booth up usually.
So a Kicker booth.
Yeah, set up
Okay.
a Kicker booth, full displays. Make sure our branding's
Giveaway
good,
swag.
in place. Giveaway swag. We do a really fun contest at Arena Cross, where I wrap a gift certificate for a Bullfrog 100 in a T-shirt, and I give a bag of T-shirts to the starter, and every guy that wins a race, be it a pro or a 6-year-old kid, gets to throw a T-shirt into the grandstands.
Oh, that's fun.
And somebody is going to win
Not only a T-shirt,
a T-shirt,
but a Kicker Bullfrog.
Not a
and
T-shirt
Bullfrog.
cannon, because we learned our lesson with Kip with one of those years
T-shirt
ago.
cannons, yeah.
T-shirt
You know.
cannon's got a lot of oomph behind it, and we learned that the hard
Especially when
way.
you're 10 feet away.
Absolutely.
Boom!
Ooh, that just hurts.
So we don't
Where did your
use
eyeballs
T-shirt
go?
cannons
Yeah.
anymore. We don't do that. Learn the hard way. So that's cool. You give away a lot of swag. So if you
Yep.
guys come to one of the Arena Cross events and you're just sitting in the stands, Kicker T-shirt and a chance at a Bullfrog 100, and that's before you even visit the booth.
Yeah, for sure. And if you get out there, be sure and come by the booth. We got a lot of the new product on display. I've got, I carry an L7T box with me everywhere I go. The newest TRTP box, which you guys probably covered
You
all
got a
last
pretty
week.
big selection. I've helped you set up some of those.
Yeah,
Right.
It's been a lot of
and
fun.
A lot of exciting stuff.
A lot of new stuff.
That was
so
the AMA flat track.
those of you guys that haven't been in,
Yeah, that was a great race.
140 mile an hour Harley sideways on the dirt.
what?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah,
Oklahoma
40
City.
mile an hour.
It's
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pretty
It was
crazy.
crazy. But yeah, and this weekend, of course, I'm here in town. I'm back at my second
So
home.
how far is Guthrie from where we are right now, Stillwater, Oklahoma?
About 35 minutes.
So 35 minutes away
South,
will be the
which is
next
that
one.
way.
Yep, 35
Yeah,
minutes south.
Towards the city, as you
So
guys
if you
would
are,
say.
it's pretty centralized in
Towards
Oklahoma,
town.
honestly.
Towards town.
If you're in Oklahoma and watching this
Yeah.
right now, come out this is Friday and Saturday, correct?
Friday and Saturday nights, I believe the gates open at 6:30.
Okay.
Kicker AMA Pro Arena Cross Series. Man, what a season we're kicking off to, Arena
You told me
Cross.
this one's kind of a special one, actually.
It is insane. One, it's, I believe, the 25th anniversary of the Kicker Arena Cross Series.
Okay.
We've been involved with them a long time, and they're great brand ambassadors for us.
So who will be out there?
and-
Big names.
Probably the biggest names you'll know. I'm not sure if Mike Alessi will be out there, but Supercross racer. Kyle Peters, last year's champion, who also did really well in Supercross. Cullen Park, those are the Phoenix Honda guys. Kyle Bitterman, another Supercross racer. We have a huge group of really talented pros this year. And the bar has been, last year Kyle Peters swept the entire season. He rode at this level.
Yeah, he dominated.
He just killed him. And everybody took that to heart.
Step their game up.
And
that makes a lot more fun to
race
watch.
has been really close, really tight, really exciting. And of course, if you can't get out there in person, you can catch it on Ride TV.
Right.
Does a live broadcast, much like UnMasked Live, but not quite as cool.
Is anything really this cool?
No.
Okay.
Not
Very
to
few
me.
Things. That's right.
Not while you're on it anyway, right?
Yeah, right. No, I watch it all the time. And then we also have a 3-year deal. Kicker AMA Arena Cross has a 3-year deal with CBS Sports Network.
Okay, so you can tune in
So
there.
it's a week later broadcast of the event. So
you'd watch this one next weekend.
correct. Yeah. When I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina for round 6.
I think
Weekend after next.
Next
Greensboro,
weekend.
North Carolina.
Weekend
Right,
after
guys.
that.
If
Get
you
around.
guys are in that area,
Yeah.
you can attend the Arena Cross, not this weekend, next weekend.
I'm actually aware for right now, because we're only 3 races and 2 venues in. I still know where I am and what day it is. It's
Towards the end of the season, you're a little,
That's the only
little
reason
burned
we
out.
keep you around.
Yeah, it gets
That's right.
a little, whoo, boy, where are we again?
That's right.
But yeah, no, it's a great series. Kicker's really, really happy to be associated with Arena Cross. They do a great job of promoting our Living Loud brand. And man, the fans just soak it up, and I'm really blessed to be able to be part of the Kicker family, and to be part of the Arena Cross.
He's one of the only other Kicker employees I actually envy his job over what we do.
Yeah, there might be a few more, but
It's
Well,
it has
maybe
influence for
paycheck-wise,
sure.
but I don't know. I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
He gets to go to all these cool events and gets paid to do that.
It's
so that's
definitely
a pretty sweet
cool,
gig too.
and
there's worse
try and
things you
catch
could
me.
be doing.
You'll find me
100%.
Guthrie this weekend at Lazy E Arena. Next weekend, Greensboro, North Carolina. The following weekend, if you're in the General Reno, Nevada area, we'll be there for 2 nights. And then we'll wrap the season up in Denver about the middle of February. Whatever that weekend is after Reno.
A few weeks out.
Yeah.
Where can they check
keep
out
it
the
straight.
schedule? In case they forget the dates and where your win-win.
If you Google search Kicker Arena Cross, it'll come up to the website, or arenacrossusa.com.
All righty.
And that'll get you schedules, tickets, standings,
everything you need
everything
to know.
you need. A quick link to kicker.com. Everything you need.
Word.
So, hey, guys, thank you.
Yes,
Have
sir.
a great
Thanks for
show.
stopping by.
Thanks for serving us
It's
well.
always good to stop
Have fun.
by.
Have fun at the Arena Cross this weekend.
I will. I hope you see you guys out there.
You just might do that.
That's right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lauren. All right, there it was.
Awesome.
But we do have a couple of other events I need to shout out. Knowledge Fest in Las Vegas, Nevada, February 18th through
That's
20.
coming up pretty quick.
Oh, they had my email up on the screen. Well, it's not even mine. It doesn't matter. There's nothing
Whoever's
embarrassing
email
there.
is
It's
on that
just
computer.
about, looks like threading of a bolt on a distribution block. Boring stuff. Anyway, Knowledge Fest, February 18th through 20, Las Vegas, Nevada. The Miami Boat Show is shortly thereafter. It's going to be February 16th through 20, so it's kind of simultaneous, actually, Miami, Florida. The Lone Star Throwdown, February 25th through 27th.
LST.
Yep, LST. That's going to be Conroe, Texas, just north of Houston. And Master Tech Expo, March 6th through 9th, Mesa, Arizona.
That's
So-
going to be a good time.
If you guys are in that area, check us out.
If you want to learn how to install better and learn how to operate CNC lasers and cutting machines and
So,
wiring.
for those of you that don't know, you're supposed to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I got to tell you that every week. That's just part of the housekeeping. So please hit the little thumbs up thing. Don't hit the thumbs down. We're not going to see it anyway. So that's the way YouTube has changed too.
It's not our fault YouTube did that.
But let's move onward, right? Last week we talked about speaker selection.
Selection?
No, I don't remember talking about that. Speaker selection and product placement. Speaker placement. Man, I don't know what the heck's going on with me tonight.
It's Tuesday.
Yes.
We're tired.
That's last week. We talked about all our speaker lineup, and then of course we got into sound staging a little bit about time correction and things like that. But picking the speaker that fits your particular needs and wants. So that's what we talked about last week. This week, we're we're talking subwoofer enclosures. So obviously, what subwoofer enclosures, well, what types are there? What differences do they make? And then maybe which one's best for you? There is no perfect recipe, right?
Nope.
People got to say, hey, you put it in XYZ box and that subwoofer is automatically going to be better than whatever you have it in. That's not necessarily
Technically, there's
the
no
case.
right or wrong when it comes to enclosures, but there's some that definitely sound better than others.
It's
and
a give and take.
Yep,
and maybe that's
everybody's
kind of what I'm
own
getting
opinion, you know.
Yeah, there is no perfect enclosure, so that's why it's always kind of a learning situation. So
you know, it's true that any speaker will work technically in any enclosure. It's just how well will it work?
Man, there's already some questions popping up there. But
good thing we got Bill back there answering.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I can't even read them. Some of them
I
were
think I
getting
saw
kind of
Kip
lengthy.
up there was actually the real Kip was actually posted in there a little
The
bit.
authentic, is that what he called himself? The real Kip?
Yep, he said the real Kip, I think it was.
All right, what's up, Kip? Thanks for tuning in. Jeff Smith, nice to see you, man. Got to see you in person when we get back on the road eventually.
Been a long time, Jeff.
Yeah, for real, it has. All right.
And if you had a birthday last week, Jeff Smith, happy birthday to you. Or the week before, but I have two Jeff Smiths that have the same, they're spelled the same exactly, so I couldn't remember which one it was his birthday. So.
If it was your birthday, Jeff.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And if it's the other Jeff Smith, happy birthday to you, Jeff.
Kip on the couch, I see him in there. Okay, Jim Grant. If you use the key 200.4 for the fronts only on the new Ram pickups or GMs and the Kicker 6x9s with the 3-inch, will it correctly set crossover automatically to block enough bass from the dash 3-inch?
Funny you ask that.
Yes, it will if you flip the little dip switch on the side. So these little dip switches here on the side, you don't have to get a close-up, but all these little dip switches right here, flip the one that says biamp mode. So go ahead and flip it to biamp. You're going to put the dash speakers, those 3-inch speakers,
on amp 1.
On amp 1 are the front channels, the colored front, so it'd be the white and the gray ones. And the door speakers would go on the rear channels. So those 6x9-inch speakers would go on the rear channels. You run the algorithm that's built into the key, it's going to set up all the crossovers for you. And it's actually even smart enough to differentiate between that 3-inch dash speaker and say like a 1-inch tweeter that some people might put up in the dash or the A-pillar.
Yeah.
It can run sweeps. It figures out, hey, I got a 1-inch tweeter here, or hey, I got a 3-inch dash speaker. I can bring that crossover a little bit lower. It does all that for you.
And if you actually don't set the switch, it'll tell you didn't set the switch.
That's
right?
true,
it'll
actually.
Fail to
So
set up.
if you do forget to flip the switch, it's actually going to fail to set up, and it'll give you a series of beeps. You can look in the owner's manual and say, I forget what number it is, maybe 5 beeps, and it tells you it sounds like it's a biamp setup, but you don't have the biamp switch on.
And also with that, you only need to run left and right into it for that. You don't have to run 4 channels in.
Right, because it's just front stage, right?
With the tweeter, it'll set the crossover at 3.2K, high pass, low pass at 24 dB per octave. When it detects that 3-inch or anything larger than the tweeter, it's going to drop that down to 320 hertz. High pass on the dash and 640 hertz and lower 24 dB per octave on the doors.
Yes, sir.
It works great. It takes all that image and brings it up on top of the dash.
As you said, they're 24 dB per octave crossovers, and I believe they're Linkwitz Riley crossovers that are built into the key, and that's something that's a little bit different for a lot of products.
We could do a whole show on just the crossover types.
Yeah, we sure could. So the key is a very, very powerful piece, and that is a terrific question, a great example of really some of the key's capabilities that aren't commonly exploited. You know, most people just hook it up like a dumb amp.
Almost every time I try to run that little guy in biamp, whenever I put one in, I ignore the rear speakers completely. You know, just who wants the rear fill? I mean, I want that front stage, and it's perfect.
On that note, if you are going to do that, make sure the rear speakers or any other speakers in the car are either disconnected or quiet during the auto setup process. So if you're going to have the rear speakers run out the head unit, go into the head unit, fade the sound all the way forward so those rears stay quiet while the microphone's trying to listen to one speaker do its thing at a time, right?
The reason it does that, it's looking for a quiet environment. If there's something else playing, when it hears the pink noise, it's going to fail the setup. And it'll tell you, I think it's 4 beeps that tells you that it basically is too loud to set it up.
Again, if you have any issues with the auto setup, usually the fail will give you a little like you just died in a video game, right? Kind of a recognizable bad sound, and it'll be followed by a number of beeps, a pause, number of beeps, pause until you tell it to shut up, because I've counted the beeps at 4 or 5 or 6, and then you look at the owner's manual, reference it. Yep, you'll be good to go.
Cool.
Well, I think we've. I've got another one here. John says, what will be the best enclosure for a marine application to get the most bass? Ported, round or square ports?
You know, that's actually a loaded question. No, like pun unloaded enclosures.
You meant that pun, John. I know you well enough. You had that one set up.
But it really depends on, what you're looking for sound quality, how many woofers you have, what size they are, how much power you have. Yeah. So there is no right or wrong answer. Now, when it comes to square or round ports, it's all about the area It does not matter the shape, as long as the area is the same and the length is the same. You can take one square port, divide it up into 3 little square ports. As long as the area is the same and the length is the same, it's going to be the same tuning.
Right.
So shape of the port does not matter. It's the area and the length.
Word. So there you go. One John to another. But to get on our topic for tonight, I got to switch my HDMI cables around here. So we're talking about, that's right. So we've been talking a little bit about subwoofer box design is what we're kind of focusing on tonight. Differences between what's a sealed box, what's a ported box, what's a bandpass box, and how you play with either the tuning frequency or maybe the dimensions of the box, the airspace of the box, different woofer size, etc. How does it all work? So if you got a box that you're trying to build for, let's say you just bought some new subwoofers, you want to make a custom box to your specific taste, how do you do that? Well, you get on either your Apple App Store or your Android Play Store, Android Play Store, and you download the Kicker U app.
It's nothing like a Playdate to the Play Store.
No, it isn't. You download the Kicker U app. And if Ernie in the back will put up the iPad, I'm going to walk you through our Kicker U app, and we can design some boxes together, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So there we are. So just the home screen of the iPad. So we're going to hit Kicker U. Boom, there's our app.
And this app is pretty awesome. There's 2 versions. Tell them the difference.
There is. So there's a Kicker U Lite, which is a slightly stripped down version.
No calories?
No calories, that's right. It's the fat-free version, so to speak. That is the free version. The full dog version that we're going to be using tonight is $3.99.
That's a Coke at Whataburger anymore.
Five Guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but we like Five Guys.
Yeah, so even the free version still has a lot of cool toys on that. And heck, guys, download the free version, look at it. If there's some features in there that you want to have access to, then buy it. Try the free, and if you're happy with it, get the full fat version.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why don't you break down what all the app does, and let's play with it sometimes.
All right, so here, the app. You're going to start right at the top, and that's Manage Drivers. And this has all of Kicker's drivers in it already. Comes preloaded with all the different sizes, and then the 2 ohm or 4 ohm impedance. I did not put those in. That comes with all that stuff preloaded. But you may be asking, why do I manage them, or what's going on here, Ken? Well, that's so you can add your own drivers. Obviously, we only want you to use Kicker woofers, right? That's what we do. Everybody watching this only runs Kicker woofers, right? Hey, we know the world doesn't always work that way, and our app is built for that. So if you use a woofer from another manufacturer, or maybe the app hasn't been updated in 3 years because you don't connect to the internet, and we've released new stuff, and you have all our teal and small parameters, you can put all that stuff in. So you could hit Add Driver, and then add in somebody else's driver, or a new driver, or whatever it might be. So add in all those teal and small parameters.
Even though it's not ours, we want to make sure that it's done right. So we're going to give you the right tools.
This doesn't only work with Kicker product, and that's built into the app. So that's on the top left, you can see we're in the Manage Drivers utility section there. Saved enclosures, so once you build a box, you can save it and recall it later, but we're going to spend some time with the box builder here for a second. So if you click on the box builder there on the left, that's what our app looks like.
Looks pretty self-explanatory.
It is. So obviously at the top, you're going to choose between a sealed or vented box. That's your choice. You know what? Let's go with the ported box right now. And then the shape, are we dealing with just a simple square? And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a perfect cube. It's just, is there a slanted side, like a truck box, an actual trapezoid shape? We'll keep it easy for this purpose, but the trapezoid does work perfectly in this app. So square, and then your material thickness. Is it going to be 1/2 inch MDF, 1 inch MDF, or the most common, 3/4?
Yeah, if you're going to be building a tetrahedral, you're on your own.
Yeah, if it's going to have some crazy shape, then it doesn't plan out for that. But if you got room, you got space, you can do this. Number of drivers. How many do you want to use tonight?
Oh, let's just do 1. Well, actually, let's do 2. Let's
2 drivers. So let's pick 2. And then we got to select a subwoofer. John, what do you think?
Why not the Comp RT?
Comp RT. What size?
Let's do a 12-inch.
12-inch Comp RT, and I'm going to pick it to 2 ohm just because. So right now, it already has the minimums and maximums for that particular woofer saved in this. So if I just roll all the way over to frequency response, I clicked on the bottom there, guys, very the bottom. So the bottom, you see that tab is Enclosure is in yellow right now. If you click over on frequency response, it lights up yellow, and that's what you're going to see. The minimum sealed box, 1.1 cubic feet, shows you the QTC of it, and then it's highlighted with the blue line. For those that don't know what you're looking at with the graph, all your deep bass would be way on the left, and all of your regular bass to, let's say, mid bass would be on the right. So it's kind of the frequency response in relation to the other frequencies around it. And then vertically, you're going to have output. So 0 dB would be flat, and then of course the lower in the graph you go, the more quiet it would be, or how steeply it rolls off. So you can toggle between minimum and maximum, but hey, you didn't buy this to take a look at just the standard enclosures we have built into that. So you got to click on that custom tab. And this is a simple sealed box. So how much airspace do we need? We
got 212s, let's say 3 cubic foot.
3 cubic
Actually, no, if we're going to do vented, let's go ahead and do 4.5.
This is a sealed box. I can do vented though. Let's go back to
I thought we were going to
enclosure.
do vented.
All right.
Go back and change it. Ported.
All right. And then we're going to go to custom.
Let's do 4 cubic foot.
4 cubic foot's my target. Now keep in mind, guys, you can play with this all you want. If you probably know the size restrictions that are in your particular vehicle. You know that, hey, I've only got 37 inches between the wheel wells here, or whatever it might be. So that's what we're typing in here. In regards to outer dimensions, go ahead and type in those required ones. Height is always going to be from the floor to the sky. And then width is always going to be on the face of the woofers other than the floor to the sky. So let's say our height, because I don't want it sticking up, you know, it hits the package tray in the back of my trunk or whatever it might be. So we'll make it 15 inches. And again, wheel well area, I got 37 inches to deal with. And I'm going to leave the depth
small
blank.
car.
Yeah, whatever. All right, so let's make it a little bit bigger then. 43, I don't know, just random pick something. Now depth I can leave blank, or I can choose to leave blank. You can put in your own dimensions there, but of course if you have length, width, and height, you've dictated your volume. Yeah, your volume altogether. Now my target airspace I'm going to say is I need 4 cubic feet for those particular woofers. We just picked that out of thin air right now. And then tuning frequency of the box. What do you think, John?
Say 38.
38 hertz. That's what John Myers wants. So now I can click that frequency response curve and you can see the difference between them. So this is the ported box. Keep in mind, guys, the graphs we were looking at a second ago were a sealed box I had selected. So different stuff
shape
now. Exactly. So you can click on the minimum, you can click on maximum, and it'll highlight each one of those curves, and you can see the custom box there in orange that we've designed. And there it shows enclosure volume without the port. So in other words, it'd be 4 cubic foot net.
Yes.
Net. So that's after woofer and port displacement. 4 cubic foot net gets you that curve there, tuned to 38 hertz, and it shows you port velocity too. So, you know, what should our target be there? Port velocity. So
I think you want it under 15 meters per second.
And then what's going to be the downfall if it happens to be greater?
Port noise.
Port noise.
The killer of good bass. Port
That's right.
Noise.
So then you can click on each one of these tabs and you can see mechanical excursion of the woofer, impedance rise, depending on what frequency you're at, and port velocity is something we just hit on.
That impedance rise is kind of interesting because we started off with, you know, dual 2-ohm drivers, but look at the impedance rise.
All right, exactly. So it depends on frequency as regards to, and that's really what impedance boils down to. It's when you apply AC music to a given resistance, right?
Yep.
To that voice coil.
What is the AC resistance at a given frequency? And that's what that impedance curve means. So if you guys are doing SPL and you tune your box and, you know, your vehicle wants to be loudest at, I can't say, was that 50 hertz there?
It's a little past. We're at like, our custom box peaks at 61.
Yeah.
Which is on the high side for sure. But
so how many ohms is it at 61 hertz?
It is a 14 ohms.
14 ohms. So if you think it's wired down to a 2-ohm load, it really isn't. If you're only playing that note, you can actually rewire it and drop it down.
So as he's talking about, is in true SPL competition. So if you were playing a 61 hertz tone, because you know that's where your resonant frequency is in the car, you're actually putting a 14 ohm load on the amplifier and really not getting all the power that you thought you were getting. In fact, you could probably go with a much, much larger amp if you're only going to play that one frequency. As you can see on either side of that frequency, you get much lower impedance.
So this is only true for, you know, the one-note wonders.
Right. So then we got port velocity. Now this is where it gets cool, guys. If you guys are building your own box, you hit on cut sheet, and there it tells you what size you need to cut each one of those pieces of wood. So top of the box, bottom of the box, et cetera, and then fancy.
Remember that page because it's going to come important later.
That's right. Real fancy. I can slide this and you can get a 3D render of what that box would look like.
Oh, you forgot to screw it together. It blew up.
Uh-oh. Lost our feed there for a second. There we go. Yeah, once you apply glue, it sucks it back down, right? And then you can toggle between them. Up at the top, you can see I have minimum highlighted, maximum, custom. So, and you can play with all the dimensions. If you wanted to come back here, let's see, to custom box, and I'm going to make this height, you know, much different so you guys can see the difference. 30, double the height, and then click back here on render. Boom, you can see it's a much different looking box, but the idea is you guys can play with all the different stuff. and see not only what fits in your car, what the frequency response is going to be, where those mechanical limits of that particular woofer you're going to use is going to be. Very powerful piece, and that's just the box builder tab of Kicker U.
Yeah, that's
only just one
segment.
little section of Kicker U. Let's scroll down. You got port conversion. So let's say you already had an enclosure that uses round ports, but you want to build a new box, but you want the same tune frequency, and you're going to use a slot port now. How do you convert that round port into the slot port without changing anything? Well, this will do it to you. So you can, my current port is round, and it is 3 inches round, and the port length is 25 inches, whatever it might be. And I want to make it a slot port, and I know that, again, because my height of the box is limited, so my port can only be 13 inches tall, and that says, oh, that'd be width, vice versa. Different shape, different, let's see here. Now I've got it all screwed up, don't I? There we go, just swapped them around. So it's told, it automatically calculated if I want a 13-inch tall port, it's only got to be 0.6 inches wide and 25 inches long in order to maintain that same tuning frequency. And that's
probably wouldn't suggest that.
No, you're going to get a lot of port noise with a skinny, super skinny port. But again, I just pulled numbers out of my derriere, right?
So try to keep, 2 inches or so, otherwise you get more restrictions. And the other thing that's really interesting about it is if you're designing your own enclosure, you can actually design one of the dimensions of the enclosure to work with the port area that you have. So if you've got 30 square inches of area you need, make your box 15 inches wide, then it has to be 2 inches. So
exactly
how you design your box makes a difference too, is how easy it's going to be to build and to tune it correctly.
That's why that software makes it so easy.
Oh, it's awesome.
And simple for you to play with all those figures until you get something that works for your particular purposes. Next down on the thing, you got tuning frequency. I can't go through it, man. We don't have enough show. We can do an entire show just on Kicker U. Airspace calculator. If you just want to, hey, I know my my box is this high, this
that used to be the number one tech question when I answered the phone. It's like, I got this much, distance. How much airspace?
How do I calculate?
It's pretty easy.
And then, of course, it does take into account the material thickness. So, if you're using 3/4 inch, then it'll take care of all that for you. Power wire calculator. So this is going to be how much power do you have in your system, and then what gauge wire should you be using. So it's how much power or amperage versus length, because length does play an extremely large part of it. If your power wire length is only 5 foot long from the batteries, you can run a heck of a lot of current through it versus it being 18 foot long. So that'll calculate it for you. You can type in, hey, I've got just one amplifier.
Aaron wants to know if it adds in the port in the rendering.
No, I don't believe it does, because you can actually cut it anywhere you want, so it doesn't show it in the rendering. It doesn't dictate, hey, the port's got to go here between the two subwoofers, because you could put it between the two subs, you could put it off to one side. Doesn't change the frequency that the box is tuned at, so it's not shown in the actual 3D render. Let's see, power wire, let's say it's 17 foot long, and my ground is 3 foot, and I'm running, 1,000, let's make it 259 watts. Doesn't really matter. So it says, hey, my suggested fuse size is 25 amp, and I could use that off 10 gauge. So
that's kind of handy for those.
Yeah.
And that's all oxygen-free copper.
That's true, and it actually has a little disclaimer. Heck, it used to. Somewhere in here, it definitely had a disclaimer.
Don't use CCA, copper-clad aluminum, because this will not work for that.
Anywho, next bullet point down is going to be the wiring wizard. Now this, guys, you can use a lot of times if you're wiring dual voice coil subwoofers. How many? 1, 2, 3 dual voice coil subwoofers together, series parallel.
Confusing.
Series parallel. So this walks you all through that. So let's make something that's a little more difficult. 3 drivers. A lot of people don't use that, and let's make them dual voice coil. And it happens to be 2 ohm impedance. So it shows you can wire all 6 of those voice coils in series for a 12 ohm impedance, all in parallel, 0.33. Series parallel in a couple of different ways. 1.33 final ohm load, and the bottom one there shows a total impedance of 3 ohm. So just type in what information you have. So if I have 2 subwoofers that are dual voice coil, there you go. Are they 4 ohm? Are they 2 ohm? It'll spell it all out for you and give you a picture of how you actually connect them. Tone generator. Now this is one that John and I use pretty often.
We're going to use it tonight too.
Are we? All right then. So this can create sine waves for you guys. It can do a sweep and create pink noise for you. It's a tone generator, but all of it is adjustable. So what frequency that sine wave is, you can adjust. How long that sine sweep takes, you can adjust. So I won't hit it because I don't know if audio is going to come through this, guys, and I'd hate to really upset somebody with a 1 kilohertz. Yeah, 1 kilohertz at that. So you can set the frequency, and you can turn that sine wave on and off We use it to do testing all the time, whether you're using it to set gain, whether you're using it for whatever it might be. All of that is built into Kicker U. Enclosures 101, this is just some reading material. So if you want to learn about, well, let's see, the more black and white version of what we're talking about tonight, actually.
Basically, pretty much everything we're going to talk about will be in that article.
Yeah, so frequently asked question, and then our dealer locator, etc. So, all right, there's Apple being Apple. So I will go back. And then you can adjust preferences. If you are outside the United States and listening, it does do metric. You would just click it at the top, and it'll break it all down for you. So, cool. I think that is Kicker U in a nutshell. I don't want to take all of your time because we got some hands-on stuff, some cool stuff, and I know you guys are looking to get your feet wet. So,
I think we're going to have some fun. Don't unplug that because we'll just go ahead and jump right over to the tablet.
Oh, let me just pass it to you then.
Yep.
Huh?
I think that's the same one. Let's see if Ernie's got it set up so I can draw as soon as I get back into the...
Yeah, flick up and get back to the home, and then whatever you need there.
All righty. So, let's talk enclosures. You know, as we mentioned before, any speaker can work in any enclosure. It just depends on how well it's going to work. So what we wanted to do tonight is we want to talk about, why enclosures are important. What do they do for you? And, more importantly...
Enclosures important?
Yes.
I can't just buy the subwoofer, put it in the...
Nope.
Oh.
Nope, you got to actually do it right. So.
But I heard free air works.
Free air is free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah,
that's one of the things we want to talk about is why you need an enclosure and what the different enclosures do. So I think we can get this tablet to cooperate here. I think we had this problem last week, didn't we?
I don't know if it was last week, but at one point we did have a little tablet problem there.
There we go. All right. I think I'm good to go here. So let's go ahead and pull up the tablet here, Ernie. So we want to talk about, why is an enclosure important? So, and you guys can all laugh at my drawing if you want. So we have an enclosure, basically a speaker, and we're looking at the speaker from the side. And the whole point of an enclosure, or a baffle more importantly, is, we start talking about, output, what we call sound pressure level, SPL. So to develop pressure, you have to have basically a way to contain that waveform. So if I talk about a speaker, just you remember the old days, you probably still see it today, people just set their 6x9s, put them by 9s in the back of the deck. They drive around with their speakers sitting on the magnets facing up. They just don't sound very good. Well, the problem with that is as the speaker moves forward, it's trying to develop pressure. That pressure is allowed to go around to the backside and cancel. So it'd be like me trying to clap with one hand, just trying to push air. The air from the front wraps around the back. So, and same thing for the backside, it'll come around to the forward. So it really kind of cancels itself. So what we want to do is we want to isolate the front from the back, and we do that with a baffle. As I drop this down, I guess I could set this up here. So with this baffle, now it's going to take that wavelength longer to get around. It will not cancel as low of frequency.
So you get a little more bass out of it just by having it in that
exactly, just
face.
by putting it on a board.
Full box.
Just a baffle. Yeah. Now what's really important, and we start getting into some other details here and some other kind of interesting things. If we look at a 40 hertz note, you want to know how long is a 40 hertz note? Well, to do that, you take
physically how long it is.
Physically in length. You take the frequency, divide it by the speed of sound. So if we take 40 hertz and we divide it by the speed of sound, it's about 1,130 feet per second. That's going to give us a wavelength of 28 1/4 feet. That's how long a 40 hertz note is.
Okay, so why is that important?
So it's really important, especially the guys with single cab pickups. You can't get that whole waveform inside the vehicle.
Of course not.
It's just physically impossible. But with an infinite baffle, if you want to get 40 hertz to play its maximum potential, you would have to have this baffle basically be 7 feet away from the edge of the woofer. Because that'll give you 7 feet for the sound to travel this way, 7 feet to travel this way. That's going to put it back in phase with the front wave. So literally, to get 40 hertz on an infinite baffle, if it was just a board in the middle of nowhere, you would have to be basically 7 feet square.
And that's for a 40 hertz note.
Yeah. So that's pretty darn big.
Right.
So what we want to do is we want to put this in a vehicle so you can take this infinite baffle and you can press the speakers up against the rear deck, against the back seat. But just remember, any amount that air leaks back around or leaks to the front of the speaker, it's going to cancel output. So anytime you do an infinite baffle, it's very important you seal the vehicle. even the back seat. So if you got infinite baffle, you're going to take a 12-inch woofer fired up through the rear deck, but you got 6x9 holes and you've got cloth seats.
There's usually holes in that back deck for all kinds of stuff. So it could be for the rear deck speaker grills. It could be for child safety seats, latch, something like that.
Yep.
And all that stuff is holes between your baffle there.
Yeah, and any amount that it does that, so you get a little bigger, if you got a hole here, that's going to allow that sound to leak, through because I've got an opening in that baffle. Or if it sneaks around somewhere else. So it's really important.
So 7 foot on each side? I don't think so, John. Nobody's going to do that. So what do we?
That's not going to fit in your vehicle because that's 14 feet across.
Yeah. So how do we get around that?
And that's how by placing that against the back seat or in the rear deck, you're going to now be able to use the trunk as the enclosure. So literally, it'd have to go completely outside the vehicle and back in. Good old Ernie.
Ernie's mad. There's too much scribbling on there.
All right. So that's one of the things, and it's really important. There's 3 things that control the movement of a speaker. Okay. So when you start talking about speaker movement, you got 3 actual things that control the speaker movement. The first one is the electronic, equipment, a crossover. Crossover will limit the output. The second one is the mechanics of the speaker. So a speaker is really interesting because if we take the speaker, and let's draw it on the side this time, speaker has a 0 point, a plus direction and a minus direction. That's why you got plus and minuses, and the speaker is actually going to move in and out. So if I have a sine wave, and this is 1 full wavelength, from this point to this point, that is 1 wavelength. And if this was, say, 1 second long, if that sine wave was 1 second, that'd be 1 hertz. So every vibration per second is hertz.
The cone moves all the way out, the cone goes all the way in,
back,
and then back to rest. That's one cycle.
And then if we start talking about wavelength, we started talking about that 40 hertz. So a 40 hertz wavelength, do you know how long this is from here to here? We just talked about
said it was
28 feet.
8 1/4 feet.
Yeah, but we'll just narrow it down to 28 feet. So what that's going to do for you is that's going to tell you that speaker is going to move out to this point, and then it's going to turn around, move backwards to that point, and move back. So that speaker is actually going to be moving in and out. If I want to play louder, I have to push that speaker farther. So I'll push it farther. So now the speaker is actually moving out farther and in farther. That's going to make it louder, but I've not changed the duration of that wavelength. So what will happen if you have an amplifier? Here's your amplifier. Now we're going to look at that sine wave as an amplifier. Say we have an amplifier that has plus and minus 20 volts of power, so a 40 volt swing. So I've got this sine wave, and this is the limits of the amplifier. The amplifier can produce this sine wave. If I want it louder,
I want to crank it to 11, John.
Yep, you're going to turn it up. It's going to push it farther, as we talked about here.
So wavelength doesn't change, but amplitude does.
But the movement of the speaker. So if I push it even farther, say I want this, for instance. You think it can do that, Ken?
Well, your lines plus 20, minus 20 are kind of steering me to that. I don't think so, John.
Yeah, what's going to happen is basically you're going to get a square wave response, and this is where we start talking about distortion. And that's where the actual wavelength will become squared. And I don't know why this quit drawing.
The point is it maxes out when it hits its limits and say, hey, I can't do anything. I'm trying to give you what you want, but I'm not capable. I'll try.
So it's going to start giving us this square wave response. Now, we talk about speakers. They move. There's 3 different forms of energy. You have heat, light, and motion. So from the 0 point to the plus point, the speaker moves out. And then if we go from that plus from this point to this point.
They can't see what you're saying when you say this point.
I know. Like I say, I'm trying to draw with this pen. This Surface tablet just does not pencil. Like me at all. So let's clear this out and let's redraw this. Maybe that'll make it easier. I think it's got too much information up there. So we've got our 0, our plus, and our minus. If I try to make the amplifier do this, the amplifier cannot reproduce that. It's going to give us what we call a clip signal or square wave, where this is what it's going to produce. And that is what we call square wave. So from this point to this point, that speaker is going to move out. From this point to this point, that speaker stays stationary. And from this point to this point, it moves back in. and then from this point to this point, it's stationary again, then it turns around.
So I can see the subwoofer stopped fully outward?
Yeah, you'll probably not see it do that, but your ears are going to hear that
well,
as
it's not
distortion.
really that big a deal if I can't see it, right?
Yeah, but you can sure hear it. Your ears are a lot more sensitive.
Think about what's happening at that voice coil during that time. You're either full tilt positive, full tilt negative. You're getting all the power through the voice coil during a time it's actually not moving. And how does the subwoofer cool itself?
Well, and remember, you got 3 forms of energy: heat, light, and motion. The speaker's not moving. It's not creating, light. What's it doing?
Heating up.
It's creating heat.
Yeah.
So the big thing is 95% of the time, if you're burning up your speaker, you do not have enough power. I know it sounds crazy, but if you have like the suspension tears on the speaker, and that's the other thing that can control the cone movement, is the mechanics of the speaker. If the speaker's bottoming out, if you're tearing tinsel leads, you're tearing spiders, you're tearing surround, you have it either in the wrong enclosure or you don't have the right type of electronic dampening. You don't have the right subsonic filter. So that's why it's really important with enclosures to have the right enclosure.
And have the right for what you're looking for, right?
Yep.
So you're trying to make up for having a small amplifier by using an extra gain knob, and then you end up with a signal like he just drew for you guys.
And it's not necessarily going to do it. So let's go back to the tablet here real quickly, Ernie. So we're going to talk about cone movement. And we're going to get this tablet to work one way or another. So if I've got speaker playing 40 hertz, this speaker is moving 1 inch. It took, say, 200 watts to do that, and let's say for argument it's producing 110 dB. If I want to go to the next octave lower, well, the next octave lower is what?
20 hertz.
20 hertz. And I want the exact same 110 dB on the output. How far do you think that speaker has to travel?
Further.
Yep, further, exactly. Most people assume it's going to travel twice as far because, once again, it's half the frequency. But remember, a speaker has an outward motion and an inward motion. You actually have to double both of those. So that speaker, rather than being double to play 20 hertz, it's going to have to move 4 inches. And how much power do you think that's going to take? 4 times the power.
More.
So even our little L7 8-inch, can move 40 hertz. It'll, play at one inch of cone travel. But if I try to go down to 20 hertz, what do you think is going to stop that speaker from moving 4 inches? Well, the electronic control of the crossover, the subsonic filter, the mechanics of the speaker, or the other thing's going to be the enclosure that you put the speaker in. And that's why we want to break this down, show you how important it is to have the right enclosure and what that can do to cone travel. So if you're burning up speakers, whether it's a tweeter, mid-range, or a woofer, chances are you don't have enough power. Even if you have an amplifier that has the capability, if you don't feed it with the right wire, the right voltage and current, it's going to clip the output. So that's why.
I think Kip has showed that to you guys in another episode. We used an older kicker amplifier, much, much older. I don't remember which one it was, maybe an old ZR. Anyway, the point is when you drop voltage, it changed the signal out. It was no longer a perfect sine wave anymore. Of course, here we are in 2022. Our amplifiers have improved greatly since then, and now we make up for that. But hey, we don't know what amplifier you're using. If you got that you big dummy amplifier from the flea market, then maybe not so much.
That you paid $39 for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So back to the enclosures. Infinite baffle is considered the smoothest, most natural sound. It basically is limited to the frequency response of the driver. But the driver doesn't get any help. So if you try to play too low frequency or put too much power, you damage the speaker. That's why we talked about last week, if you're going to use a speaker for, mid-bass, you put it in small enclosure, it's got better control over the cone movement. It's going to be tighter and tune it higher. But if a speaker's in too large of a sealed enclosure, that's almost infinite baffle. So let's look at, other types of enclosures. Go ahead and switch back to the pad there, Ernie, please. So your next type of enclosure, obviously, is going to be a sealed enclosure. So a sealed enclosure is called an acoustic suspension speaker, and it's...
Looks like it's got some holes in it, John.
All right, let me fill that in. So an acoustic suspension, acoustic meaning air, suspension meaning spring. So this is actually going to work like a spring. So the smaller the box, the less it's going to allow that speaker to move, or the more power it's going to take to move it.
So as the speaker cone moves inward, it compresses the air that's in there, and of course the air tries to fight against that.
And push it back.
Right.
So a sealed enclosure is going to be very tight and accurate, but what happens is you get this nice, wavelength coming out of the front. The rear wavelength is actually trapped within that enclosure.
Okay.
So you're not getting any benefit out of it. But we can
Getting
take
wasted.
that speaker and we can put it in a larger sealed enclosure. Now that spring is actually softer. So the speaker can actually move in and out much easier. It's going to play a little bit better lower bass, but once again, you may actually bottom the driver out from too much power. So that would be what a sealed enclosure does, and they got great response. I mean, I love a large sealed enclosure. This is my favorite right here. That's what I have in all my vehicles. So from that point, we go to the next style of enclosure, and we're going to go to a ported enclosure. So what happens with a ported enclosure, we talk about that shock wave. Remember, that shock wave is traveling 1,130 feet per second. You're going to have that pressure wave coming from the front. You get that pressure wave coming from the rear, which eventually gets to the port. And the whole purpose of the port is to align the output of the port with the output of the front driver. So that's how with a ported box, you get that little bit of a rise before it starts rolling off. So the problem is, sound is traveling at set speed. Sound is traveling from the face of the speaker at 1,130 feet per second. It's also traveling through the enclosure and through the port. So it's still in phase, but it's actually behind in wavelength. So you've got part of the wave hitting you here, part of the wave hitting you here. So that's why ported boxes tend to be not as tight as a sealed box, because you actually have almost like an echo. The other thing that can happen with the ported box is a larger ported box is great because I get even more output, but it has even longer for that sound to travel, so I get even more delay. But the advantage of a large ported box is I get deeper bass, I got a lower tuning point, and something that's kind of interesting, we start talking about the tuning points of the enclosures. So if I've got a ported box, and here's your tuning port of your
That's your
enclosure.
frequency response graph, just like we saw
Yep.
in the app.
And actually that's 3 dB down, but that's your frequency of the box. From above this, it thinks it's in a sealed box. Below that tuning frequency, it thinks it's in infinite baffle. So below that tuning frequency, I lose all control over that cone movement. It's just like holding the speaker in your hand. So here it's sealed, and here it's infinite baffle. So a smaller ported box is going to tune it at a higher frequency, so I can't play the lower frequencies in that smaller ported box without the box unloading, and that can actually damage the driver. And that's why we tell you, depending on what type of enclosure you use, if it's sealed, or ported, or if it's in the wrong ported enclosure, wrong size or tuned wrong, you can actually damage the driver. So that's why it's very important to have the right size enclosure.
Damaging spiders, ripping tensile leads, etc. Such so true mechanical failure. He said, maybe you have it in the wrong enclosure, and that would be an example of that.
So we had a little fun, and we talked about it last week. We decided to build some enclosures. So what I decided to do was I wanted to build some enclosures we recommend, like in the owner's manual, the speakers. We're going to use a Comp R 10-inch 4-ohm, so a Comp R 104, and this driver recommended for 0.8 cubic foot sealed. That's the smallest seal enclosure. A 1.2 cubic foot vented box or bass reflex box, ported box. And we also decided to do a Bandpass. Now, we didn't talk a lot about Bandpass in the sketches, and I'm going to show you why here. We're going to
sketch it up for us so people have never even heard the term, or maybe have heard the term but don't know what that is.
So with a Bandpass box, and this is just one way to draw it, the speaker is completely enclosed. So you've got some of the area that's sealed, and then you've got another area that's going to be ported. So you've got same thing, you got that back wave that's trapped, so you get no benefit from the back wave, but the sealed section of the bandpass determines its low frequency response. If it's really small, it doesn't play really low. If it's really big, it'll play low, but then I start losing output. So the other side of the waveform is the ported side, which is that's where it gets that boost, that extra output. Now, in fact, I was going to do this and I forgot to, but there's actually a demonstration I can do with rubber bands to show you how this works. But what a bandpass box will do is it gives you a response like this. So you've got your 3 dB down on each side. That's considered the pass band or the bandwidth of the box at 3 dB down. Now this is rolling off at 12 dB per octave.
Hey, Kipper. Thanks for joining us.
So 12 dB proactive on both sides. And this is why, a lot of people call this a fourth order. And it's not, because a fourth order, your first is 6 dB, your second is 12 dB, third is 18 dB, fourth is 24 dB. So what they're doing is they're actually adding these two together to call that a fourth order. And this is why we...
Kip, yep.
There he is. Hey, Kip, how you doing?
It's nice to see you. So that tells you guys, Kip's alive.
Alive and well.
All this time, we've been, oh yeah, he's going to get better. Nope, that's your proof right there, boys.
So this is why we stress to you guys that these are Bandpass boxes. They're not fourth orders, because there isn't a fourth order roll-off. If I put a passive crossover on it, then you could make it into a 24 dB per octave crossover, but it have to be at the exact same tuning frequency. So that's what we mean when we start talking about Bandpass boxes. The problem with Bandpass boxes is they're very complicated to build. They have to be built exactly right, and if anything goes wrong with this woofer, you have to have some way to get the woofer out of the enclosure. You have to build an access panel. It gets very difficult. And the other really bad thing about Bandpass enclosures is you can't hear distortion. You can't hear that clipping as naturally as you can with the sealed or porta box.
What if the box is so big that I could just climb through the port to get to the subwoofer?
Then it's a lot easier, but then again, it's not going to be a Bandpass box anymore. It's just not going to work right.
Does that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we've done is we've decided to build these enclosures, and Ernie, you can go ahead and I think we're done with the tablet. I'm sure you're going to be very glad with that.
Ernie says he's thrilled.
One of the things that we want to do is we want to, basically build the enclosure. So as I mentioned, we built the 0.8 cubic foot sealed. We built the 1.25 cubic foot vented box. We also built a Bandpass box that our guys in the tech department, support at kicker.com. They'll help you build anything you want. They'll help you design it, or you can use the
Kicker U app.
The Kicker U app. But the box they said they've had pretty good response with is 1.1 cubic foot sealed, 1.3 cubic foot vented with, I think it's 28 square inch port, 17 inches long.
So that is just a Bandpass box design that we've given out for
this seems to work pretty good.
This driver before, so if you happen to be using it. As a heads up, guys, you got 4 minutes left on that contest.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure kicker.com/UM Weekly, letters UM Weekly. Sign up for that giveaway. We'll win some cool stuff. We'll draw the names here shortly.
So we're going to build these enclosures, and obviously the enclosures are all different sizes of panels we have to cut. So I'm going to plug a company that I've worked with for a little while, and I really like these guys.
Now, this is really cool.
Ernie, why don't you go and pull up my laptop if you would? What you see up here is a software program called Cut List Optimizer. That's just basically, it's not even an app, it's actually just a computer program, but it's called Cut List Optimizer. I can't even say that on screen. But what it's going to allow you to do, it's going to allow you to put all the pieces. You take the Kicker U app that tells you how big a pieces. You can put all those pieces in right up here, enter their size, and you can enter how many of each piece you need. And then it's going to go through and you tell it how much MDF you have and what the thickness is. It will go through and it's going to lay out the entire cut sheet. See, there's the bottom part, the other pieces that didn't fit within the first sheet. It's going to maximize your performance or your usage of the wood, because wood is getting expensive. I mean,
that's
$52.
Right, so you don't waste any wood. So it's what cut should I make where in order to fully utilize my sheet?
So, and this can be done with any size sheet, where it says, stock sheets. That could be a 4x4.
So now, John, we already asked this. My first question was, does it take into account the thickness of the saw blade?
Yes. So there's actually an area where you go in and you set it up and you put the curve for the saw blade, which generally is like 0.125 inches,
so
and it rounds it to
eighth inch.
It rounds it up to 1.3. But so if you're trying to cut, you've got 48 inches of wood. Say it's not MDF, it's actually 48 inches. It's actually real plywood. And you want two 24-inch pieces, it's going to tell you that you can't get those out of that, because one's going to be 24, the other one's going to be 23 and 7/8.
Right,
so it's not
blade
going to work.
thickness matters, guys. We want accuracy when we're doing this. That program takes it all into account for you. You can adjust the blade thickness to different thicknesses, and then just make the cuts like it shows you, and you can utilize just one sheet instead of having to buy two because you screwed something up and didn't know that you should have cut that one here or something like that. So very, very cool piece, very, very cool program.
And I wish I would have found this years ago.
You and me both, buddy.
Just doing this, on the fly
both.
as you go. You can't think of how much wood I probably wasted over the years.
Yeah,
but it's
I know
just a way for you guys to do this a lot more efficiently. And this software basically, you can do up to 5 a month for free. And if you're a shop and you guys, or you build a lot of boxes, go ahead and pay the $15 a month, and you get a version that's going to give you access to a phone app. You've got more boxes you can build. So it just depends on what level you're doing it. But like I say, this is a great program. It's a great tool for you guys building your own enclosures. And especially, like I say, if you don't know how many sheets of wood you got to buy, I mean, this is going to tell you, hey, I've got 2 sheets. Or it's, hey, you got these pieces left over. They're not going to fit in the amount of wood you have. So that tells you that you need to go back and buy another sheet of wood.
Hey, John, we got a question. Choke change. Could you folks clarify passive radiator enclosures like the L7 QB8?
Sure.
What are the best practices? As, for example, does it need to be on the same face of as the driver, or like the QB8 opposite the driver, or twice the area?
All right. Well, yep, I know. I got to move the HDMI over. We might as well draw this out for you guys and talk about it. So we are talking enclosures.
If you didn't like his drawing, you can blame choke change.
All right. Well, all right, Ernie, switch me back over. So we talked about the ported box, with the port, and here again, if we have a passive radiator.
Is it working, Ernie? Replug the HDMI? Unplug and replug, maybe? Even the iPad's had enough of him.
Yeah, and I don't blame it.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem with this one because the way it plugs in. How about now? All right, so apparently this decided. Oh, there it is. All right, so as we bring this back up.
Try not to jiggle it too much.
Yeah. So here we have our vented box, and once again we're back to this delay with the pen. So we're going to close this down and open up another one. See if it's going to draw for me now.
Should be working.
Yep. So in a ported box, ideally you want the port on the same plane so they can couple together better. So that's a ported box. Now, can you put the port down here? So if we go back to the eraser, if I can see what I'm doing, we can erase that. So go back and to drawing it. So if you want and put the port down here, you've got a different distance right here. So you're not going to get the exact same coupling. It's going to detune the box very so slightly. But say if you've got your speaker, your box is 12 inches tall and the woofer is 12 inches from the end, you have 24 inches between those 2 points. So we talked about a 40 hertz note being 28 feet long. So that's going to be basically, you divide it by 4, it's 1 divided by 7. Oh, I can't even do it that way. So 1 divided by 7 is going to be roughly 13% difference. So it's going to make a little bit of difference where you put the port. Ideally, you want it in the same plane with the speaker. Same thing with the passive radiator. You want to keep it close to the same plane as the speaker as possible. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference to put it on the opposite side. The big problem you have is you build a really, really long skinny box with the woofer in one end and the port or the passive in the other, and you're on this side. Now you do have a big distance. But if I turn that this way, as if Ken was listening to it, now the port and the speaker are the same distance away. It won't make any difference. So it has to do, again, with loading and placement of the speakers. But with
in reference to the listener.
Yep. What a passive radiator does, it works very similar to a ported box. So the air that's inside the ported chamber of the box and inside the port has weight. It's got mass. It's got an actual weight to it. And the more mass you have, the lower the resonant frequency. I think we talked about that on one of the shows. So what you can do with a passive radiator or enclosure is you can put weight on that passive. You add mass to it. That's going to allow you to tune it lower in a smaller box. So the advantage of the passive radiator, I get the output of a ported enclosure, the size of a sealed enclosure. And we'll talk about the size of the enclosures when you see these next to me over here. So that's the advantage. The disadvantage is the heavier you make the passive, the less efficient it becomes.
Need
So
more
it takes
motor to actually
more
push it.
power and
Yeah.
more power handling.
As
so
we
there's
said at the
always
top
that
of the
trade-off.
show, it's always a trade-off. There is no, well, I got to use the passive radiators now. It's always a trade-off. There's a give and take with a lot of things in life, and this is no exempt
The
from
big
that.
advantage of a passive radiator, there's no port noise because there's no port.
That's true.
And even the enclosures, like I say, the one that I've got over here, I was playing with it earlier today and yesterday. I mean, if we play 20 hertz out of this thing, I mean, it's the smallest vented box. It's not tuned, to 20 hertz. You do hear plenty of port noise.
Hey, John, we had a question I saw a little while back there. If you've got multiple subwoofers in a sealed enclosure, should they be in separate chambers? You can just have them all in one common chamber.
Here's my theory on that, and this
All right.
is something I
The
try
John
to talk
Myers
about. Yeah.
exclusive. All right.
As far as I'm concerned, and I've modeled this up many ways, and many people, there's no right or wrong with what you're going to do. But if you think about it, if I've got two 12-inch speakers, each one requires 2 cubic foot. So I build a 4 cubic foot mono chamber. Each one is basically going to react on 2 cubic foot, right?
Okay.
That's great. Well, if one of those drivers happens to die for any reason, say one speaker quits, now you have one 12-inch speaker in 4 cubic foot airspace.
With a passive radiator in the cone.
Yeah,
just
basically,
flopping
and that's what it
around.
becomes, which is not a tuned passive radiator.
Right.
So now you've tuned the box a whole lot lower. You've taken away some of the acoustic suspension. You're probably going to tear up that speaker as well. Now, not only that, say that doesn't happen. All speakers are designed absolutely identical. Are they all absolutely identical?
Of course not. There's tolerances in everything, whether it's electronics, acoustic components, whatever it might be.
So it's, especially if you're using multiple amplifiers, you got different amplifiers, and multiple speakers, you really, really, really need to have a separate chamber for each speaker. Now, in ported enclosures, that's another area where people ask you, where do you put, 2 woofers, where do I put the port? Well, a lot of people will put the 2 woofers side by side and the port on one end. The problem with doing that is each woofer is a different distance away from the port. The wavelengths are different. It's never going to tune exactly right. So if you'll notice, if you play different frequencies, like sine waves, different frequencies, the speakers are going to move different amounts depending on the frequency because they're not loading exactly the same. The better way to do that enclosure would be have the 2 woofers with the vent in the center and a divider down the middle just to make sure that they're isolated as much as possible.
And on the plus side, the walls of the port in the dead center of the box keeps it rigid also.
And better
Helps with
mutual
bracing.
coupling because
Better
they're
mutual
all
coupling.
focused together. At the tuning frequency of a ported enclosure, the port's doing all the work. Outside the tuning, they're actually sharing the load somewhat to the point where the port's not doing anything if it's way outside of the tuning. So it's, it comes to how you want to build the boxes, but I almost always, if you can build a separate chamber for each driver, absolutely every time. The other thing it does for you is it makes the box stronger. It's more reinforcement. And I know where this comes from because if you look at the original, like the first edition of the MECP Installer's Guide, the way it was written, if you read it a certain way, it almost
Edition
said,
1?
that if you take the center divider out, you gained 3 dB of output by taking the center divider out. Now, how do you gain 3 dB output normally?
Not by taking the center divider out.
Yep.
Double the power,
Or double
cone
the
area.
speakers. Yep.
In theory, yeah.
Did I do that?
Of course not.
No, you just took the divider out. So, but the way it was written, it said you would gain 3 dB if you have a second woofer, without a divider. Well, it wasn't the divider, it was the fact you added the second woofer was where you got the 3 dB. So it actually rewrote that, I think in the second edition. But
we got some demos for us here. John,
yep,
I'm looking at
I
the
know,
clock.
we're
I
looking
don't
at the
wanna forget
time. Like I
anything.
say, we could go on all night. So what we've done is in fact, if we can go ahead and focus the camera over here on
Need me to turn on this
the
rig
speakers.
we got?
Yep,
Got
go
a
ahead
head
and turn
unit,
this
an
on.
amplifier
We're
to
going to
power
go
some of this
ahead
stuff?
and fire some things up, and let's play some things and do some sweeps. And what we're going to use, guys, is we're going to use a program called True RTA. Now, True RTA, and we're going to pull it up on screen so you guys can see it. There's a free version and there's 2 different levels of paid version, I think, and this is the premium paid version. It's going to set you back under $100. Well, 5 cents, it's like $99.95. But with the basic free version, you can do 1 octave RTA, which, third octave is pretty much minimum what we recommend. But with the full-blown paid version for $99, I can go down to a 24th octave. So that's going to divide every octave into 24 parts, and it gives me an oscilloscope function, a 2-channel oscilloscope function, so I can actually compare input to output, see if there's any time delay, and if there's any distortion in either the input or the output.
So you can watch 2 separate traces on the oscilloscope display at the same time.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
So what we're going to do for fun is we're going to play some enclosures here, and we're going to actually map them out with the true RTA. And guess what software I'm going to use to play my sweeps, Ken?
Probably Kicker U.
I'm probably going to use Kicker U. And that is really funny. My phone is having a tantrum over here.
Well, there's no 3.5 jack on that iPad, so.
Yeah, so what I'm going to need, this is really
Need to get
fun.
my phone?
Yeah, why don't you? Because how many times does this happen? The phone is screwed up. I was using this all day long, and in fact, even up to 30 minutes before. Now I click on the Kicker U app. It says it's not installed. I don't even know how that's possible.
John, master of electronics.
I know. You think I'd figured out after all these years, so.
Fork it over.
All right. So, yep, I actually heard a subwoofer. So Ken's going to play the Kicker U app, and what he's going to do is he's going to set it from a sweep from, let's just go to 10 hertz for fun, from 10 hertz to 200 hertz.
Okay.
And I want this sweep to take 15 seconds.
Okay. Give me a second to get over there. Sign sweep.
Actually, let's go ahead. Let's make it a little long. Let's make it 20
You want
seconds.
to start at 10?
It doesn't matter. It's actually going to start at 200, and it's going to show it 200 hertz down to 10 hertz, and the duration is going to be 10 seconds. So what we're going to do is we've got the microphone hooked up to the laptop, and I'm going to go ahead and have him start the sweep. And I'm going to turn the volume down a little, Ken, because and there's our unloading. So first thing we're going to do. All right, go ahead and pause that, tell you to start it. We're going to start with the small sealed enclosure first. And I think you guys can see, in fact, while he's got that shot here, this is the 0.8 cubic foot sealed enclosure. This is the 1.25 ported enclosure. Look how much bigger this box is. So is it a benefit to have a bigger box?
There, John?
This is going to be a port plug. We're going to show you that in just a minute.
If you got time, John, it's 8:40 already.
I know. So, all right. So what we're going to do.
And then last there, a Bandpass enclosure.
So I'm going to have Ken go ahead and start the sweep right now. And we're going to be quiet and watch the graph. And we'll go ahead and let this play through a couple times just to make sure we get a good average. All right, Ken, you can go ahead and stop that. So what we have here on the screen, this is the response of the small sealed enclosure. If you notice, it's rolling off. If we do the calculator, roughly 12 dB per octave. It actually has a little bit of rise all the way through, up to 200 hertz or so. Actually, I got this cut down to 80 hertz, so a little bit of a bump here, a higher frequency. But it's a pretty smooth, flat response. So let's go ahead and take this response, and I'm going to erase all the other settings, and I'm going to store this in memory number 4. So that is going to be the small sealed enclosure. Now what I'm going to do is what we talked about with this other enclosure. I'm going to plug up the port on the ported box, and it's going to become a large sealed enclosure. And I think if you guys watched last week, you heard me talk about, I used to do that in one of my cars. I would have a box that was ported. When I really wanted to jam, when I wanted sound quality, I'd plug the port up. So we're going to do the same sweep again, and this time we're going to have a large sealed enclosure, which is 1.25 cubic foot. So go ahead and start your sweep there, Ken.
I can already notice it's playing a little deeper.
Yep. All right, so go ahead and stop that, Ken. Let's go ahead and we're going to store this in number 3. So now I can go back here and I can show you the differences in the enclosures. So if you notice, the yellow is the large sealed enclosure. The gold color is going to be the small sealed enclosure. Now, ignore this anomaly up here where that little bump was. That's actually when the software turns on, it's got a little glitch. But it's got a pretty flat response. But I can literally see the difference between the large sealed enclosure and the small sealed enclosure. In fact, you got roughly about a dB or 2 difference here in the low frequency response. But the upper frequency response is pretty much the same. So let's go to the next type of enclosure. Let's go to the small ported enclosure, to which we're going to pull that port out. I'm going to get back here on the computer, and I'm going to say, Ken, go ahead and start the sweep. He played low.
Yes, sir.
Now, if you notice, like I say, it didn't play quite as loud, that big rise at the, it's just a glitch with the software when it starts. And even if I delete this software, we'll let it run through one more time.
Oh, it is. It's right where you start.
It's right where I started
Here,
every
I'll
time.
Stop. Clear it and do it one more time. Ready?
Hit it.
That should help it a little bit. There we go. It is an odd glitch, but yeah, it works better there.
So this isn't, absolutely, ruler scientific, but it gives you, a pretty good response to what's going on.
We're using the same software, same microphone, same subwoofer, so they're all 10-inch comp R subwoofers.
So let's go ahead and store that in number 2. So now I can go back here with the graph, and I can see the difference between.
So way more output.
There's your small sealed enclosure, and look at the difference in output here. I mean, you're talking 8, 9 dB difference in output. And this is down, well, tell you exactly, 31 hertz.
So it would seem, if you're just looking at this graph, you'd always want to do a ported box.
But here again, you don't have that tight, clean space. And the box is quite a bit larger.
Yeah, if we're talking in a car here, we can't always give up 3, 4, 5 cubic foot, 8 cubic foot, whatever it might be.
And now here's actually the difference between the large ported or the large sealed and the ported. So not a huge difference, but once again,
that's a pretty big difference.
Is it worth go ahead and building a box that's that much bigger? Do I have room for it, for one?
Right.
Which brings us to the next point. What's the Bandpass going to do? Alrighty, so I'm going to get back over here. I'm going to hit go. All right, Ken, hit it. Kind of interesting if you look at that. This Bandpass box is actually a pretty good box, and I was really kind of, you can go ahead and stop the sweep. When I looked at this Bandpass box, it's actually got pretty good bandwidth. I mean, it's pretty flat, from here to here. If I go up higher in frequency, I don't know if this program will let me now it's not going to show you everything above it, but it actually rolls off on the upper frequencies. So that's what the Bandpass box is doing. It's rolling off at 12 dB per octave on both ends. But as I look at this graph, the Bandpass versus the ported box, what do you think there, Ken? Which one would you rather have?
Ported box.
Exactly. So here's your Bandpass versus the ported. In fact, the ported box, I don't know why it changed colors on me. Here we go. So there's a big difference in the output between them. I don't even know where that went. So look at the size of that Bandpass box. It's absolutely huge.
By comparison, for sure.
And it's really not giving me any more output than I had with.
Can you show it to them? We turn it sideways a little bit, and they can see how big this beast is.
Actually, go back on the camera here. Let me just flip it up on end.
So guys, that is a box for one 10-inch subwoofer.
I don't think Tim can zoom out that far, can you?
Not at that camera, anyway.
But if you notice, it's wider this way, it's taller, but it's about the same depth as the ported box.
And then if we look at the vented box there to the left, and then of course the sealed box to the far left, the size comparisons are, heck, it's 3 times the size.
Literally. So once again, you're looking at 0.8 cubic foot on the sealed box, 1.25 on the vented box, and then with the port displacement on the Bandpass, it's actually 2.62.
Yeah, so a much larger box, and hey, if you've got the room, it might be something for you to play with. but we're do car audio here,
Yep.
and you don't always have all the room in a car.
My money's on the ported box, for true output, but
a little easier to build too.
Yep, I personally like the sound of the very large sealed enclosure.
What's the ratio on that sealed to ported? Somebody's asking there.
Ratio.
Jose.
Not sure what
sealed to ported. 1 to 2? I think that's what it was, right? 2 to 1 ratio. It was more vented airspace versus sealed.
Yes, in fact.
What did you have on there? I
I
thought I looked at it. When he was making the boxes, we kind of looked over
But if you look at a computer program, go ahead and go back to the laptop, Ernie. This is what the computer program says that 0.8 cubic foot sealed box should look like.
That's in a perfect environment with
Yep.
no cabin gain in the car, nor the acoustics of this room.
Next thing we're going to look at, let's look at the 1.25 sealed. Very similar again. And we're going to put these all together here in just a minute to show you what they look like. But once again, that's what the computer says it should look like. And then now let's go to a small ported box. And it shows a little bit of a rise, down here around 50 hertz or so. But then it rolls off much steeper. That's that 24 dB per octave roll off versus the 12 dB per octave on the sealed box. Then if we go to the Bandpass, which if you want, we can do that sweep at a higher frequency, running up to 200 hertz, because then you'll really see that when you measure it, that Bandpass box roll off. But that doesn't look like a very flat response there, does it, Ken?
It doesn't at all. So it's doing exactly what the name suggests.
Passing a band of frequencies and rolling off at 12 dB per octave on both sides. Let's go ahead and put all these enclosures together. And there's your differences. Here's your vented box. Here's your Bandpass. Small sealed box is going to be the one that's got a little bit more output, but it rolls off quicker. And then the large sealed box has got the smoothest, flattest response. It's still pretty tight bass. So just remember, when you're building enclosures, I think we're done with the laptop, Ernie. When you're building enclosures, it's computer simulation and apps are great. They're definitely going to give you a starting point. Do not expect the box to do exactly what, even if it's a really accurate program, and that program actually that they use to design those and plot this out is Term Pro. And it's a great program.
You can adjust air temperature, humidity in your environment, all kinds of stuff.
And you've got LEAP, which is Loudspeaker Engineering Application Program. That's LEAP. We've used that in the past.
Here at Kicker, honestly. We play with all of them depending on...
Basebox is another pretty decent one for the money that, shows cut sheets. But
WinISD.
Yep, that's another one. But just remember, it's not going to be exactly what the graph predicts. There's so many other things, and obviously this is in a lab response, and we're just in a big room.
Yeah, it allows you to compare boxes versus each other, so you can see, ballpark where you need to be.
Yeah, just kind of gauge it and give you an idea of this versus this. The worst thing you need to do is design one box on one program, one box on another program, and expect to compare the two. They're not going to be the same at all. But the other thing you got to remember is you're taking this box, and what are you putting it in? A vehicle, which is a what? It's a box. So you're putting a box within a box. And a vehicle has something called transfer function. Every vehicle is going to change the acoustics of the speakers you put in it, and it's going to sound different again. So we did not do any in-car responses just because I wanted, just a big open room, and it's a lot easier to just put them on the floor and film them with a microphone. But here again, I just want to show you the differences in the enclosures and what they look like when they're modeled versus what they look like when you actually measure them. So it's kind of interesting. So don't get locked onto what the computer says it's going to sound like, because it might not sound anything like that in your car.
Guys, I don't know if Kip will be back next week. That's going to be up to him.
Kip unfired?
So. Yeah, I don't know if Kip is unfired. But, we all hope so. But, whenever he feels up to it, take your time, Kip. We got you. We're holding it down in the meantime.
And by no means have we covered all the types of enclosures out there. There's vented bandpass where both chambers are vented. One can vent into the other chamber, compound vented bandpass. You have isobaric enclosures where you actually face two speakers, face to face and wire one out of phase. There's transmission line speakers. There's horn speakers. There's tapped horns. There's a lot of really unique
you guys
drives.
to tears. It gets worse than this, guys.
Yeah. But this is the fun part. A lot of the other enclosures are not practical for car audio because
they're huge.
A transmission line speaker, if you want to build a transmission line, to give you an example, and you want to tune that to 40 hertz, It's a chamber and a port that are the same size. So you basically take a square box and divide it in the middle, but leave a space between the two chambers at one end. Put the woofer in the other end. But that wavelength from the speaker around the box to the port, if you want to tune it at 40 hertz, it's got to be 14 feet long. Here again, it's that infinite baffle, that smooth output.
14 foot?
Yeah, well, you can if you fold it and fold it and fold it and fold it. In
fact, in the neck, huh?
Still
is a huge box.
For trivia, there was a company that actually put transmission line speakers in their cars from the factory, and that was the Mazda RX-8s.
We appreciate you, kid.
Or RX-7s. They actually did, the Bose Wave basically was a transmission line. So it actually had a chamber that was actually just a whole bunch of loops that went around the outside back of the vehicle. It's pretty cool.
Word.
Questions, guys? I know we probably went through a lot of stuff and we skipped over a bunch.
Before we pull our winners for tonight, I'm sure there probably are some. It was kind of pouring past. Most of it was just Kip love. So we're not skipping that over. Joseph says, want a transmission line, tune the box port to 28 hertz and open the windows, and you're set.
There you go. It'd be smooth and natural. We didn't do too bad on time. We didn't blow it too far out of the framework, but we'll answer questions. Once again, support@kicker.com. If you think of something or have some questions later, reach out to the guys.
There's a lot of folks that have a lot of love for passive radiators.
Yep, they're great. I mean, that's where Kicker started. The first Kicker box was a passive radiator.
Exactly. Kicker's been doing passive radiator boxes
ton of output. Once again, sound great. Small box, and once again,
that's car audio in a nutshell, right?
Yep, pretty much. So
Boot Acoustics. So would it be safe to say that a single reflex bandpass is a direct combination of those as a way to describe the sound signature to someone?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because it's going to roll off at 12 dB per octave on the high end and low end. And once again, there is nothing wrong with bandpass, but I will tell you, for the record, guys, any guys that follow any of the sound quality competitions, how many times has a bandpass box ever been in even the finals? And that is 0.
Zilch.
It just hasn't happened. That doesn't mean it won't ever happen, but I mean, there's some really cool. Another quick little trivia. I used to build. I'm not a fan of bandpass boxes, but I actually built one I used to really like to build. And the box literally was 31 inches wide, and it was 11 inches square, and it had 4 equal chambers. So 31 inches, 11 square, 4 equal chambers. Magnet goes in one of the sealed chambers, and a 3 by 6 inch port in the other chamber. So you can either fire the ports out.
Could you draw that out on the iPad for us?
I could probably draw that out.
I'm kidding.
They're like, no! But anyway, 31 inches, 11 by 11, 4 equal. It's like quarter cubic foot, I think, per chamber.
L7Q
Magnets in one
class.
sealed, and then the vents in the other. And actually, I had people that would get rid of 12-inch woofers to buy that little 8-inch bandpass, and it uses 8-inch drivers.
Mike says L7Q class in the 6th order. Thoughts?
Here again, 6 order.
We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I think in the very beginning when you pulled out the iPad.
I mean, are you talking about a vented bandpass at that point, or are you talking about a sealed box with a 4th order?
Most people, when they say that, is when the sealed enclosure vents into the vented enclosure, which
here
then
again,
vents into the environment.
The box is going to be extremely large, by the time you do that, and your sound benefits probably are not going to outweigh the cost and the time to do it. And here again, it will mask distortion. And one of the things that bandpass boxes do is they remove all the impact, the tightness of the bass, which is the biggest problem with the bandpass, why they don't sound very good. The inherent design of a bandpass will absorb the impact, will absorb that punch. It gives you the low rolling bass, but you lose that attack. So you absolutely have to have really good mid-bass drivers if you're doing any type of bandpass.
Well, it's funny you should mention mid-bass.
Can a mid-bass help the small sealed enclosure? Well, a small sealed enclosure is almost a mid-bass enclosure, but here again, anything tuned correctly and built correctly is going to benefit.
Maybe he means the large sealed enclosure.
Yeah, and here again, if you have a large sealed enclosure, you want to get some of that snap and tightness back, absolutely. That's what I do in my
Small
Mustang.
sealed enclosures are already, they don't play quite as deep.
And they've got a lot of tight attack, but
a little tight. Yeah, exactly.
Large sealed enclosure, you're missing a little bit of that upper impact. So yes, in a large sealed enclosure, a properly tuned, mid-bass would be great with that. And here again, like I've always said, I'd rather have a good 2-way versus a bad 3-way, or I'd rather have a good 3-way versus a bad 4-way. So it's all about the tuning. Just remember, KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Not calling you guys stupid. That's just the theory.
All right. I think it's time to give away some stuff. What do you think there, John?
I think we're ready for a drawing. So Guys, let's roll our third place winner.
Yeah, so our third place winner tonight is going to win a pair of EB200s, a Kicker
t-shirt,
koozie, and the Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt that you see right over there.
Third place winner is tonight. Drum roll, please.
Simon S.
From Minnesota.
Minnesota.
You got to drag your O's out.
Congrats. Oh, is that how it goes?
Minnesota.
Thank you very much, Simon. And congrats on your
I've been to Minnesota a few times, I know.
Yeah, a time or two I've been
Definitely been up there a few times myself. So thank you, Simon. Once again, you're going to get an email from Bill. Make sure when you respond, we need your name, your address, your phone number, your shirt size, just to make sure we get everything correct.
Full name, address, cannot be a
no
P.O. box. Phone number, we promise we won't spam you on that, and shirt size. So we're just confirming your shirt size. You know, if you're an extra large guy like me, you don't want the medium. That's how Kip does it. Kip, I hope I did it proper.
And the second
prize is going to win a pair of Tabor 2 wireless headphones.
Those are the Bluetooth headphones.
Yep.
Right? Over-the-ear Bluetooth headphones?
Yep, that's correct. So you're going to get over-the-ear Bluetooth headphones, our Tabor 2, the koozie, and the t-shirt. Second place is...
We're still waiting.
James J.
From Texas.
From the state of Texas.
James,
Congrats,
watch
James.
for that email from Bill. Give us the required information, and we'll send you, as aforementioned, the second place prizes.
Keep checking that email. Whatever email you guys put in there when you enter the contest, you'll get the email from Bill Frog here shortly, and he'll get you out your stuff.
All right.
Grand prize for tonight's going to win the Kicker ANC Bluetooth headphones, the koozie, the shirt, those awesome headphones.
That would be the Cush NCs, wouldn't it?
Yes, Cush ANC, Cush NCs. The ANC version.
Yep, automatic noise canceling, that's ANC.
This guy.
Winner number one.
Grand
Bring
prize
it on,
tonight.
guys. Let's see who's going to be number one for tonight. Tonight's winner is Kevin H. from Missouri.
Kevin H. Congrats, Kevin. You get those ANC headphones, the koozie, and the Unmasked Live t-shirt.
Awesome. But you know what? We need to give some other stuff away.
What do you think, John? What do you want to give away?
I don't know.
The shirt off your back?
Well, no, because we can't do that.
J-Dub put a stop to that real quick.
Can't give our shirts away. These are training department shirts. We actually had them made. So I don't care about your budget. Jeremy's back there whining about budget. I tell you what, guys, we're going to go debate about. We're going to give something special away. Watch for announcement. We're not going to make it known right now, but all you guys that are signed on, to subscribe, you're going to get an announcement. I would hope tomorrow. And Facebook, watch it, because we're going to give something else away, something kind of cool, just for fun. Yeah, you might as well.
We got to give some stuff away, right? So let's do it.
It'll be something cool and different and new, and something I don't think we've ever given.
We'll see how it goes.
Something like this away.
We'll see how it goes.
Let's have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for watching. We're right at 9 o'clock. I think we hit it right on the nose. Hope you guys had some fun. Hope you learned a little bit.
We didn't roll till 10.
Hope we prompted some questions for you guys. But remember, there is no right. There is no wrong. It's whatever works for you. And what works in one vehicle may not work at all in another vehicle. So just, hey, if you're happy with it, if there's no shame, it's whatever you like. There's no right or wrong. But just have fun with it and experiment. That's the joy about car audio. It's a different system every car you put it in.
Yep.
Not
different
like
set of ears listening to that system.
Not like a home system where it's the same rack system in every living room that sounds exactly the same way. But I did that years ago. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Once again, if you liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Tune in next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time, Facebook and YouTube channels.
Right here.
We'll check you later.
Signing out. Take care, guys.
Kipolicious. Good evening, everyone. Twisted Tea. Good evening, everyone. Be sure you get that schmedium. Twisted Tea. Hippopotamus. Cold beverage. Schmedium. Midler. Out in BFE. Out in BFE. At the end of the day. Good evening, everyone. Tuesday.